Aaron paced back and forth in the garage, his fingers tapping nervously on the neck of his guitar. He could feel the heat of the upcoming talent show pressing down on him like a weight. His band, Cosmic Drivers, had been practicing in Max's garage for months, and they were almost ready to rock. But today was different. JT hadn't shown up for practice. Aaron looked over at Max, who was absent-mindedly twirling his drumsticks. "Where's JT?" Aaron asked. Max shrugged. "I don't know, he's been weird lately." It wasn't like JT to miss practice. They'd been best friends for as long as he could remember, and they'd promised to give everything they had for the talent show. Aaron tried to remain optimistic, but JT never showed. Something was off. Later that afternoon, Aaron found JT at the skate park. But he wasn't skating. He was leaning against a railing with some guy who had to be at least 25. The smell of vape smoke hit Aaron before he even got close. "JT," he called out, his voice shaky with concern. "What are you doing?" JT barely looked up, taking a slow puff from the vape. "Chill, man. It's no big deal." Aaron stood there, his heart pounding. "You missed practice. And why are you vaping? You know that stuff's bad for you, right?" JT rolled his eyes. "Relax, Mom. It's just a little vape. Not a big deal." But it was a big deal. Aaron's mind raced as JT shrugged him off. Was it his place to do something? Was he a bad friend for worrying? The feeling stayed with him long after he walked away. The next day was Sunday, and JT wasn't at practice again. Aaron couldn't ignore it any longer. He was worried about his bandmate. No, his friend. He couldn't just let it slide, but what could he do? He wasn't about to snitch on JT, but if it meant helping him, maybe it was the right thing to do. Aaron's thoughts raced until he made a decision. On Monday, he found Mr. Foster, his school counselor, and asked for advice. He didn't give any names, just asked what he should do if he was worried about a friend who was making bad choices. The counselor gave him a serious look. "If you care about your friend, you need to tell him to stop. He might be angry at first, but he'll thank you later." Aaron didn't want to, but he knew it was the right thing to do. He waited until band practice that evening, and when JT showed up, Aaron pulled him aside. "JT, you need to stop vaping. I talked to Mr. Foster about it, and he thinks it's really bad for you too. You gotta quit, bro." JT stared at him for a moment, his face hardening. Then he threw up his hands. "You snitched? What kind of friend are you? You went and told someone about me?" Aaron was taken aback. "I was trying to help, JT. You're my best friend." "Not anymore," JT shouted. "I'm done with you. I'm done with the band. Peace." He turned and stormed out of the garage. Aaron's heart sank. He didn't want this to happen, but it had. And now the band had broken up, and it was all his fault. The silence that followed felt deafening. Then Max spoke up, his voice cold. "Good going, Yoko," he said angrily. That night, Aaron lay awake, unable to shake the feeling of loss. Could he fix things with JT? Was there even a way to repair the damage? The next day at school, Aaron saw JT in the hall. He approached him with a smile. "Hey, JT," he said nervously. "How's it going?" JT ignored Aaron completely. Without even looking at him, JT shut his locker and walked away. Aaron couldn't believe it. It felt like a punch to the gut. Later, as Aaron walked to Max's garage for practice, he braced himself for another unpredictable session. Would JT show up? Was JT even still angry? Maybe there was still a chance to talk things out. But when Aaron arrived, he couldn't believe what he saw. Not only was JT there in the garage, he was practicing a song with Max. "JT, you're back," Aaron blurted, a mix of hope and confusion in his voice. JT smirked, shaking his head. "Yeah, I'm back, but you ain't." Aaron froze. "What do you mean?" Max crossed his arms. "We thought it was dumb for JT to quit just because of you. I mean, why keep the snitch? So we kicked you out." Aaron's jaw dropped. "What? How are you gonna play the song? You need a lead guitarist." Max shrugged. "We got one." Just then a voice piped up from the driveway. "Hi, guys." Aaron turned around and saw Grady, a kid from the grade below, holding up a guitar. Aaron couldn't help himself. "Grady, do you even know how to play?" Grady grinned, completely clueless. "Max told me at lunch the band was looking for a new guitarist, so me and my dad picked this baby up from Guitar Center after school today. And guess what? The guy at the store gave me my first lesson. I'm still learning, but watch this." Grady picked and strummed, attempting a solo, but the sound was awful, totally harsh and out of tune. Aaron couldn't stop himself. "This is a joke, right?" But Max and JT nodded enthusiastically. "He's great, huh? Glad to have him on board." Aaron's face fell as he then saw both JT and Max vaping. "You too, Max?" he asked, the disappointment heavy in his voice. "It's no big deal," Max said, blowing out a cloud of smoke. Aaron turned and walked out. He had to get away. It wasn't just the band anymore. It wasn't even his friends anymore. Everything was changing. The next day at school, Aaron noticed JT was absent. He felt a lump in his throat. After school, he rushed to the skate park, hoping to find out what had happened. A group of older kids were hanging out near the ramps. One of them looked at Aaron. "You didn't hear? JT's in the hospital." Aaron's heart stopped. He ran to the hospital, his mind racing. He found JT lying in a bed, looking pale and weak. The tubes in his arms made Aaron's stomach twist. JT looked up, surprised. "Aaron, you came? After everything I said?" JT whispered. "Of course," Aaron said, sitting by his friend's side. "You're my best friend. I'll always be here for you." "Thanks, bro," JT said quietly. There was a long pause. The silence was awkward. Finally, Aaron spoke up. "So, what happened?" JT looked down at his body. "Nicotine poisoning," he said. "Swallowed some vape juice." Aaron's face dropped, watching how his best friend was falling apart. "I know, right?" said JT. I promise I'll stop. I didn't realize how bad it was until now." Aaron smiled, his heart lightened. "Does that mean you're still going to be in the band?" JT grinned. "You really think I'm gonna let that Grady kid get anywhere near me on stage?" They both chuckled weakly. "Want to know something funny?" said JT. "What?" asked Aaron. JT spoke quietly. "All those kids at the skate park, my vape dealer, even my old man, none of them came to see me. You're the only one." JT gathered the strength to hold out his fist. "Bros?" Aaron smiled. "Bros," he said as he fist bumped his best friend. The gesture of solidarity was deep, and at that very moment, both boys realized how important true friendship really was. When JT was finally better, he rejoined the band. The guys practiced hard, and even though they didn't win the talent show, Aaron and JT had learned something much more important than any trophy. They had learned that friendship mattered more than anything else. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing to do.